How do I pick a psychedelic tourism retreat? Let's get into it. Hi, everybody. My name is Jill. Welcome back to the Journey Sage. And this is a channel where I talk about psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. And the reality is, for a lot of folks, a psychedelic retreat, is going to be one of the ways that folks can access this kind of therapy. And so I figured, let me just do a video of my process of how I decide where I'm going to go. I've been to about 5 different retreats since healing my PTSD with MDMA, because fundamentally, I was, marinated in abuse and neglect for about 19 years, and I had a lot of stuff to work through. And I found that psychedelic tourism, along with my continued relationship with my therapist that I still continue today, has been invaluable as a healing tool. So here's my process. The very first thing I think about is, why do I want to go on a retreat? At one point in my life, I felt very, very stuck. I wanted to kind of clean out the cobwebs. Another time in my life, I wanted to deal with grief. It had been 7 years since my partner had passed, and I kind of felt like my grief reaction was a little bit out of proportion to the time that had passed, and I wanted something to kind of help me get unstuck. So that's an example of 2 very specific reasons why I chose specific retreats. And I mentioned the reasons. Some of you might think of like almost as the diagnosis, but for me, I just consider them reasons, because my second point is that different retreats have different medicine, and different medicines or different psychedelics can work for different issues. So for instance, going back to those examples, when I just kind of wanted to clear the cobwebs, get a little bit unstuck, I decided to go to a primarily psilocybin retreat in the middle of Mexico, in the middle of the jungle, because I just wanted to kind of shake up my life a little bit and understand why I was kind of blocked. The instance where I wanted to deal with grief work, I chose a Bufo and Cambo retreat, specifically because Bufo is super, super powerful. Cambo is a heart opener. I needed something strong to disrupt this grief that I kind of felt had gotten embedded in my bones. And so the type of medicine is super important. I've worked with other kinds of medicines for other reasons too, and it just kind of verifies I always know why I am going and what I want to achieve. And then third, I consider the kind of retreat that it is. Is it on the clinical side? Is it on the kind of hotel upscale side? Is it, hey, we're going to be hanging out in an eco-friendly place, kind of like in the middle of nowhere? I tend to enjoy kind of the middle of road, more ceremonial in nature kind of places. I learned that very, very quickly. And so that's the third thing I consider. What's the environment that I want to be in? For me, I'm finding I really enjoy being more in nature, more of a ceremonial kind of space. It creates more bonding with the folks who are also attending. And so that's kind of where I lean. But in the very, very beginning, as I was looking at different retreats, I kind of had to say, do I want a high-end experience that's very clinical? Do I want a middle of the road kind of upscale hotel? Do I want to be in the jungle? Those were decisions that I had to think about. And even now when I'm looking at retreats, it's like, okay, where is it and how different from my current life is it? Because that's kind of what I tend to gravitate to. And then fourth, I like going to retreats that have some sort of history behind them. So on my website, I have an aggregated list. I have aggregated lists of retreats, and I'm also a part of a number of psychedelic professional groups where folks post their retreats. I want to make sure there's a history with the facilitators. This retreat has run before. Just some basic. I don't really want to go to a retreat that has been created 3 months ago by somebody who experienced 2 or 3 mushroom journeys and thinks that he or she can kind of heal the world. I want to make sure there's an established understanding of how a retreat works, how to work with adults, and how to make the experience a very healing experience. I'll make sure that I have that webpage listed down in the show notes. And then lastly, I always want to talk to who is running the retreat or a facilitator to kind of get the vibe, see if I like the person or not. And I always have some basic questions. I want to know about the food. I'm pretty flexible with food. I just want to know how many of my snacks I need to bring. I want to know about the ceremonial space. I want to know about the weather. I want to know basically what do I need to pack to be comfortable. I get cold with a drop of a hat. I want to make sure that I bring with me things that'll make me super, super comfy. And so that's always a question that I ask. And then third, I always want to know about either the medical expertise of anybody who's on the facilitator staff, or is there a medical facility very close by? I luckily have really no physical issues, but you just never know. And that's one of those questions that makes me feel more comfortable. And then depending on where the retreat is and what information has been provided, I'm always super curious about transportation. Very often these retreats are in other countries. I just want to know, how am I going to get to and from the airport and that kind of stuff. But those are just personal questions that I have and my process. So there you go. I focus on why I want to go, what medicine is going to be provided, the expertise of the people running the retreat. That's basically my process. If you're still interested in my actual MDMA for PTSD healing, feel free to check out my book over on Amazon, Rescuing Jill. The resources for retreats and psychedelic assisted psychotherapy professionals are all on my website, thejourneysage.com. And so until next time, take care.